On this week's episode of Ride the Lightning, the Tesla unofficial podcast, one of the owners of the first 25 Model S Plaids joins me to talk about his impressions of the car after 1 week of ownership. Plus, Leno discusses his experience with the Plaid, good news for future Tesla and EV owners in a couple of places around the world, and more. What's happening, friends? I'm Ryan McCaffrey, joining you as always alongside the snoozing Daisy the Boxer puppy to my left. First up, happy Father's Day to my fellow dads out there. The official published date of this podcast, maybe you don't hear it on Father's Day, but it is out on June 20th. This is episode 307. So happy Father's Day to all of my fellow dads out there. Now, coming up, a little something special on this week's episode. After the news block, so I'll go through the usual round of Tesla news, as I always do. I've got an interview with Emmett Peppers. He's one of the lucky first Model S Plaid owners. He got to take delivery at the launch event that I was fortunate enough to attend last week. Now, I know I promised that the hotline calls that I didn't do last week because of the Plaid event would come back this week, but I could not pass up the golden opportunity to chat with one of the, as of now, very, very few Plaid owners. There's a lot to ask Emmett about, and I hope you enjoy that interview. I had fun talking to him. So I pinky swear promise that the hotline calls will come back next week. So keep your calls coming. I am hearing them. I am logging them for the next episode. If you want to call in something in the world of Tesla that you want to comment on, you've got a question, give me a call toll free, 1-888-989-8752, and just leave a message. Or use your smartphone's built-in voice recording app, record your file, and email that to me at teslapodcast@gmail.com. Either way, please try to keep your call to a minute and a half or less. Real fast, some quick follow-ups from last week. It was very hectic last week. The Plaid event was on late Thursday night. I record on, late Friday night. I had to, of course, do my day job and work Friday, so I was getting everything together as best I could, but so a couple of follow-ups here. Number one, the range of the non-Plaid, just the long-range Model S, the new Model S, has been slightly reduced from 412 miles to 405. It's a pretty trivial difference, but I certainly wanted to mention it nevertheless. Also, thank you to loyal listener Kevin Rapf for pointing out that as of now, the Plaid Model X, which of course won't go into production until much later this year, has not seen the matching $10,000 price increase that the Plaid S got. So as of now, as of this recording, it's the same price, $130,000. So if you are thinking about a Plaid X, now might be a good time to go ahead and lock in your order and get that lower price. Save yourself 10 grand if this is something that is on your radar. And one more housekeeping note from last week. Ryan in Austria politely reminded me that I was incorrect about the Plaid Plus being the only time that Tesla has actually gone so far as to take money for something that they never delivered. How could I have possibly forgotten, as Ryan kindly pointed out, the long-range rear-wheel drive Model Y? That's the biggest one of all. That one probably still stings for a lot of you out there who were holding out and had a reservation, had an order for that car. So I apologize for missing that big obvious one, and thank you again to Ryan in Austria for correcting me and pointing that out. Okay, let's get on with the news proper. First up this week, the carbon-wrapped motor, the rotor sleeve, I should say, on the Model S Plaid, that is one of the big engineering triumphs on the new car, certainly according to Elon, and everything we've seen from the Plaid S so far seems to back that up. And now Elon is hinting at even further improved rotors and sleeves for the Roadster. He responded to somebody on Twitter about it and said, quote, "The Plaid carbon-wrapped motor is arguably the most advanced motor on Earth outside of maybe a lab somewhere. We have to keep some secrets," and that bit's in response to wanting the person wanting an explanation about what all does it, how is it done? Anyway, Elon continues and says, "We have a few ideas for increasing torque and max RPM even further for the new Roadster. Definitely fun and exciting engineering ahead." And a reminder, 20,000 RPM on the Plaid S. So they're looking to push it even further on the Roadster. And I don't doubt it, because after all, Elon had responded to me some time back. I was fortunate enough to get a reply from him on this topic. I had said some time ago, in response to him talking about the Plaid S, I had said, well, release the Plaid S first, learn from it, and use those learnings to make the Roadster even better. And he replied, exactly, basically acknowledging that I'm correct on that. So I had said this now, my next little prediction here. I did mention this back on my New Year's prediction show, which, of course, if you're a newer listener, I like to make predictions about the year to come for Tesla at the very beginning of the year and then score myself the following year, 1 year later, and see how I do. But I made the prediction that I think the Roadster is going to end up with 4 motors instead of the 3 that the Plaid has, in order to get torque vectoring in the front and the rear as well, to get torque vectoring all over the place. And I also think, if I didn't say this on the prediction show, I also think there's a decent chance that the Roadster might get a second gear in order to hit that promised 250 plus mile an hour top speed. Because remember, that's how Tesla presented it at the Roadster unveiling in late 2017. Not 250, 250 plus. Now, if you're curious about a second gear, obviously every Tesla ever that's been made to date has ended up being a single speed. Porsche does a 2-speed with the Taycan, which has helped enhance the excellent performance of the Taycan. And in fact, if you've been a Tesla fan for a really long time, you might remember that the original Tesla Roadster, in fact, did have a second gear in the very, 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 very beginning. But unfortunately, at that point in time, Tesla is a brand new company. Their first time they'd done anything, any product, they could not keep the gearbox working reliably. And so they ended up getting rid of it, and they updated any cars that had a 2-speed gearbox, put it back to a single speed. And that's been, again, every Tesla since. Now, you might think, well, if Tesla gave up on a 2-speed back then, why would they do it now? And that's a fair question. I mean, maybe they won't. But the Roadster has to, by its very mission statement of destroying gas car performance forever, that is its stated purpose for existence. And I'm paraphrasing, but I believe Elon's exact words were something to the effect of making a gas-powered car feel like a steam engine with a side of quiche, if I remember that right, from the Roadster unveiling on the back of the semi-truck event. But anyway, the point is the Roadster has to use every trick in the book to try and break every performance record. And I'm quite certain that just because Tesla couldn't get a 2-speed gearbox right in 2008 doesn't mean that they still can't do it in 2021/2022. I mean, obviously, technology moves forward. That's not just a Tesla thing. That's an everybody thing. And the fact is, Tesla has a lot more smart people, super smart people, at the company now than they did then. They had obviously plenty of smart people that got the Roadster done in the first place and helped get the company off the ground. Now they have even more super smart people. So I figure that could be something that we see to help the Roadster really achieve those top end speeds. Point is, I am going to be very curious to see just how much further the Roadster is able to push things compared to the Plaid S, because you're talking about a car now, today, a 5-seat sedan that is just doing incredible things. It has broken Motor Trend. If you want to read their report on it this week, it did break their quarter-mile record for a production car. So it beat all the supercars. It did a very impressive thing. So be following the Roadster closely now that the Plaid S has really set the bar for where the new record is. Now, speaking of Plaid, I know I already played you the clip very recently of Jay Leno calling into that Car Enthusiast podcast to verify his record-setting quarter-mile run, but I wanted to play another clip, a newer clip. Here he is on The News with Shepard Smith on CNBC, talking in more detail about his drag strip experience with the Plaid Model S. Take a listen to Jay Leno.
Few have been allowed to drive that car, but Jay Leno has for CNBC's Jay Leno's Garage. He tried to break the quarter-mile land speed record for production cars.
All right, Jay, this is Franz. You're ready to go. Launch. Here he goes. 9247. Wow.
Wow, I wonder if that broke a record. Jay's with us from his garage. That's fast. Was it a winner?
It was a winner. I mean, it is now the fastest production car you can buy. Faster than any Ferrari, faster than any $3.5 million Bugatti. It's pretty amazing. You know, the most amazing part was that drag strip was near Bakersfield in an agricultural area. So there's farming all around. There were birds sitting on the Christmas tree. That's the light that comes down. When I stepped on the accelerator and took off and I came back down after going 152, the birds were still there. I mean, you go to any drag strip and it's just horrible noises, tires smoke, blah, 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 blah. But just the fact that you can go that fast, that swiftly, that quickly, you know, it's pretty amazing. I'm a huge fan of American technology, and especially products that developed here in America using locally sourced stuff. And that's why I love this car. $130,000 is a tremendous amount of money. But to get the same performance from internal combustion engine, you probably have to spend, in the case of Bugatti, $2.5 million, or Ferrari close to $1 million. So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, you were.
Plus, they had the air conditioner on.
You were into Tesla from jump. I'm curious what it feels like in that car with the yoke. I mean, do you feel the power? Do you get the same rush or no?
Well, it's different. You know, I have a lot of steam automobiles from the last century, and steam gives you that same initial. See, internal combustion engines need transmission to transmit power because the transmission multiplies the power. Internal combustion engine doesn't make its power until it's really moving very quickly. You see, electricity, like steam, is right now. So electric cars don't need a transmission. So the minute you step on the accelerator, boom, you're gone. You see, with a car, you've got that first gear will give you the initial pull, but that runs out quickly, so you shift to second, shift to third, because it's all done automatically too now. But you still need a transmission. You don't need any of that with an electric vehicle. So that's what I find fascinating. I mean, steam ran everything from 1800 to 1911. From 1911 to now, it's internal combustion. And from now into the near future, it's probably going to be electric or some form of electric hybrid.
Think there's going to be a long line for these?
Well, I think so. I mean, it takes a while for people to come around, but they come around more quickly. I mean, it took 75 years to every American to get a telephone in their house, but it only took 5 years for everybody to get a computer and a cell phone. So people trust technology a little bit more, plus the fact that you have virtually no maintenance with an electric car, and also the fact that now, like the new Tesla, you get, even with the base model, you get 400 miles approximately. So that's more than a fill-up in most cars. So that problem seems to be taken care of as well.
I hear you. We'll be watching for Season 6 of Jay Leno's Garage, premiering this fall on CNBC. Thanks, Jay.
I'll tell you, I love hearing Jay talk about Tesla because he has such a deep well of knowledge and a wide-ranging perspective on all cars, not just Teslas like me. That's me. I'm like super narrow casting here. Or, you know, it's not just Teslas, not just EVs or any other just little sliver of the car world. Like, again, you sit down with me, I can tell you everything about Teslas and everything about DeLoreans, but not much else. Jay might be the world's foremost car guy without any qualifying adjectives needed in front of that term. And really, there's no further evidence needed of that fact than how Jay brought up steam engines in giving context for Tesla and the electric vehicle. And he made perfect sense doing so. And Jay also, as you could hear there, is a self-admitted homer for American automotive ingenuity, and he recognizes that Tesla is the best example of that in actual decades. I don't think that's a fanboy thing to say. I think that's a pretty reasonable, fairly objective thing to say, not subjective. But anyway, I wonder if Jay will be ordering a Plaid to replace the existing Model S that he has, and has said, I think in previous clips that I've played you on this podcast, that he drives pretty regularly out of, all his cars. I think his S is one of his more frequently used around town kind of daily driver cars. It would be cool to get Jay on this podcast someday, just to talk Tesla. I just got done saying he knows about all cars, but it'd be fun to talk to Jay about just Tesla and his experience. If anybody out there knows Jay or his people, drop me an email. I'd love to hear from you. He would be a fun conversation on this podcast. Anyway, I'll add that to my RTL bucket list here. Next up this week, here is a phone call. I guess we're going to do one call this week because it's got news in it. Listener Eric from Vermont called in and shares some good Tesla-related news in his state. So for those of you in Vermont and those of you not in Vermont, will still want to hear this anyway because it's an update on the ever ongoing march to try and legalize Tesla in all 50 states. Here's Eric from Vermont.
Hi Ryan, this is Eric from Vermont. We had a local victory for EV owners with the passing of Bill S47. This means that Tesla and other non-franchise car companies can have a service center in the state. Currently, the closest one is about 3 hours away. I'd also like to share my thoughts on the Tesla Vision. I do think this is the best and fastest way to train Tesla's AI. Radar was good for measuring distances, but similar to LiDAR, it's just a crutch to vision predicting distances, much like our eyes do pretty well. And in snowstorms, my experience is that the bumper gets caked with snow, and the faulty radar readings knocks out auto steering and basic traffic-aware cruise control. I'm hoping even though the ultrasonic sensors are still caked in the snow, we could get some basic functions back for those long winter drives. And then also with fog, there was a study by MIT that showed they could get the cameras to see about 50% further or deeper into the fog than humans could. And that's not a complete substitute for radar, but the other thought is vehicle-to-vehicle communication. Back in 1999, part of the radio spectrum was set aside for V2V, and it would be great to see Tesla be a leader in this area. I could see the car sending actionable signals based on direction and speed that would be more useful than radar and hopefully prevent a 50-car pileup. The possibilities for V2V seem endless to me. You got truck platooning, safety of vehicles needing to get by, traffic merging seamlessly. So anyways, we'll see what happens. Thanks again as always, for a great podcast.
Eric, thank you for letting me and the audience know about this, and congratulations to my Vermont listeners. That's definitely some good news. Glad to see Tesla and then any future startup EV company that might come along win a victory there in the Green Mountain State. Again, I say this all the time, every time one of these comes up. It's state by state. It's a fight on a state-by-state basis. So thanks again, Eric. Now, speaking of listener-supplied Tesla news, here's some more good news from longtime listener and Ride the Lightning Patreon supporter Jeremy Harris, who writes in and says, "It's been a long time coming, but at last, New Zealand is jumping on board with the rest of the developed world and introducing EV incentives. Unfortunately, the only Tesla that will qualify here is the Model 3 Standard Range Plus, which is going to be sold locally at $69,990 New Zealand dollars, as every other Tesla's base price is above the New Zealand $80,000 maximum threshold. Interestingly, there's an incentive for used EVs too, probably because many of our cheaper cars are imported secondhand from Japan. Anyway, it's good for Tesla and most EV importers, and I thought you might be interested. I do like that subject to legislation passing from next year, the rebate will be funded by charging a levy on the most polluting SUVs and gas-guzzling four-wheel drive cars. So thank you very much for that, Jeremy. That is indeed good news. And this seems similar, at least on paper, to Canada's incentive in that, specifically kind of the cap, that the Standard Range Plus Model 3 barely qualifies and nothing else in Tesla's lineup does. But still, for those for whom the Standard Range Plus is in the budget, that's exactly who, in my opinion, we should be helping to incentivize. So I am all for this. I am absolutely all for this. And it's not like you're getting a bare bones car that's not very good if you are getting a Standard Range Plus. It's not like you're settling for, just the Standard Range Plus Model 3, because as I've said a number of times on this podcast, I think that the Standard Range Plus 3 has become, over time, as it's been upgraded bit by bit here, an incredibly good value. Especially at this point, now that the range is over 260 miles on that car, and on top of that, it has virtually the same interior, it's got the same all-glass roof, most of the same software features as the long-range Model 3 does. So it's a good value. Really happy to see New Zealand do this. Thank you, Jeremy, for passing that along. And to New Zealand itself, I say good on you. I salute you. That is fantastic news. And what else? I guess the last item this week in the news is for those of you who may be frustrated with Bluetooth pairings getting fought over by your car and the stuff in your house, this little Twitter update from Elon might make you happy. Someone on Twitter asked Elon, can we please make it so phones only connect to Bluetooth when it's detected inside the car? Big issue everyone has where we pull into the driveway and it connects to an active call inside the house. And Elon replied saying, true, we somewhat overcompensated on Bluetooth antenna capability, haha. We'll work on turning it down near your destination, end quote. Well, I really can. I can see how this would absolutely be annoying for people whose garages are directly adjacent to their living space, which is a whole lot of houses are like that. So I'm glad to hear that it's now on the software team's radar. All right, that's all I've got for you in terms of Tesla news, but as promised at the top of the show, stay tuned next for the Emmett Peppers interview. I hope you enjoy it. I am very pleased to be joined by Emmett Peppers this week. He is the founder of Good Soil Investment Management. You can follow him on Twitter at his name, Emmett Peppers. And he was also lucky enough to be one of the first 25 Model S Plaid owners. He took delivery at the launch event last week. Emmett, welcome.
Thanks, Ryan. I've listened to your podcast from the beginning, actually. I haven't heard every episode, but I've heard most of your early episodes. And then from here and there, I still catch an episode. You do a great job, and pleasure to have you as part of the community.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Well, I appreciate having you because, last week I was lucky enough to be at the Plaid delivery event with you. Obviously, you had a much better reason for being there than I did. But I love getting to experience the car and really get in and sit in some of those demo cars and poke around the UI and the interior. So I kind of want to establish a baseline real quick. So what Tesla are you coming from, having now going into the Plaid?
I'm coming from the Model Y. I traded that in, but this is actually my 7th Tesla, believe it or not. I've been trading them in. My wife is on her 2nd one, and this is my 5th one.
Yeah.
So I've had the Model S previously, and so I had the Model 3 then, and then the Model Y. Now I just traded that in for this Plaid version.
All right, so you got a good breadth of experience across the family here. So this is good. You can speak from a good well of experience on this. Now, I'm curious. 25 people is what got chosen for that first night. So when did you place your order, out of curiosity?
I don't recall exactly when. I think it would have been in soon after he announced it, but sometime in the first quarter of this year. I don't remember exactly when, but it wasn't it wasn't immediately after. Like when I went to the Cybertruck event, I placed it within minutes of him announcing the Cybertruck,
Yeah.
at the event, and same with the Model 3 but the Plaid, I took a little bit of time. So I wasn't like placing the order like within seconds of him. I think because I live locally in the North Bay and
Right.
maybe they have some internal brownie points calculator of who their most loyal customers are, since I'm 7 vehicles in and 2 solar roofs and 6 Powerwalls in,
Yeah, that definitely I would think would win some brownie points as far as who gets chosen for that first night. Now,
maybe.
When did you find out that you would be taking delivery that night?
The Sunday before that. Yeah. I got a phone call from, I don't even think it said
A
Tesla,
delivery
just
advisor, maybe?
Yeah, it was a delivery advisor from a phone I hadn't recognized, and it was a delivery advisor, and he gave me the good news. Hey, you've been picked to be one of the early delivery recipients and been invited to come pick it up Thursday night at the event. Would you like to do that? And I was like, of course, yeah. I was like, I'm going to clear my calendar and do it, And so he gave me the instructions, and I already had worked out the paperwork online to trade in my Model Y. I knew I was going to get delivery probably sometime this month, if not next month, but I didn't know it would be that soon. So it was really good news.
Well, that is of the 7 Teslas that you've had, that's probably going to be, that'll stand out as maybe the most memorable of your delivery experiences. Then you got to be part of that first night.
Absolutely. Yep.
Now, did you do a test ride that night? I went 5 times because, that was my only chance. Or I'm curious, so did you go and take a test ride, or did you just wait and drive your own car home and go launch it in the parking lot?
Yeah, I should have. Looking back, I wish I did the test ride on like the racetrack there, with the other driver. But when they let us go to our cars and talk to our own personal like Tesla advisor, who was like showing us the car, who happened to be the chief information officer of all of Tesla, was the guy who was giving me my car. It was really nice,
cool.
To have some senior management member like walk me through it a little bit and talk to him. So I decided, my friend and I, we'd been there for a while, and we, instead of waiting in line, I said, well, let's just get going and test drive this thing on the way home, and so that's what we did. And it was pretty nerve wracking that first time putting my foot on the pedal. You have this enormous power at your toes there.
Yeah.
And if I spaz out and like, have like a muscle knee jerk reaction of some sort that I don't want, then we could just be going instantly in 60 miles an hour at any given time. So it was kind of nerve wracking that first launch, getting ready for that.
So help me just put one thing to bed. I think this seems like it's clarifying now, but you can help me with this. I was surprised when I walked into the event and started looking at the demo cars around that were sitting around the staging area, that they all had a Plaid logo, not the word Plaid badge on the back, which is what shows on the design studio, but the actual, like the T-shirt, the Spaceballs, rectangular Plaid. Is that what's on your car?
Yeah, on the back, instead of where it says like P85 or 100D, there's like a little rectangular graphic of the Plaid imaging. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Because it seems like that's an exclusive thing for that night, because there have been photos on Reddit of others Plaids being trucked around to delivery centers, and they just have the letters PLAID on there. So now I've seen a lot of mixed reactions to that Plaid badge. Do you like it, or are you going to take it off?
No, I love it, especially if that's true. I've heard that rumor that it could be just those 25 cars. And if that's the case, if I can keep it in good condition, maybe one day it'll be a collector's item.
Yeah, I think it's pretty cool. I would want it on mine. I don't know. I think it's pretty unique, because everybody's going to look at it and go, what? What the heck is that? Yeah. And I kind of like that personally.
Yeah, it's pretty neat.
Now, you have had the car for a week. I want to talk to you about that. But part of your week, you took it to the drag strip. Now, please walk me through that experience. Now, I followed some of, a few of your posts on Twitter about that, but this is not your ordinary drag strip run, because, as I'd like you to explain to the audience, there are rules at the drag strip that the Plaid Model S instantly shatters. So if you could talk about your drag strip experience the other day, I would love that.
Sure. It was incredible. So first of all, like driving up, I've never It's Sonoma Raceway, just north of San Francisco. And I'd gone there once with my oldest son to like watch a race car event. It was kind of cool, but I'd never participated or anything like that. And Wednesday nights, they have this like drag race night where people can bring their cars and drag race them. And so I was driving up there and didn't really know what to expect. And just pulling into the gates, there was a guy in front of me who recognized me and the Plaid, because I guess he watches another YouTube channel, Dave Lee, who I'm sure you.
Oh yeah, I know Dave. I was on his show. Yeah, he's a great guy.
You're on a show. Yeah, and I guess the day before I had given a rundown of the Plaid on Dave's YouTube channel and said that I was going to the Sonoma Raceway. And so this guy had been a watcher and he recognized me. He's like, Emmett Peppers. And he's like a longtime goer of the Sonoma Raceway. And he was so friendly and showed me the ropes and explained everything to me. You know, without him, it would have been very much harder to like understand. I had another guy going with me that's actually a professional racer that had gone to that raceway a few times and knew the ropes too, though. So yeah, when we got there, I had to learn the rules and the regulations. And basically, if you try to do a quarter mile in under 10 seconds, you have to have a license and like a parachute and like a roll cage in the car, all these regulations. And if you don't, you're breaking the rules and you get kicked out. But I'd made good friends with sort of like one of the managers there, and through this gentleman and his group of friends that were longtime goers of these drag races every Wednesday night there. And they basically told me like, hey, if you go under 10 seconds, I can give you a warning. And then and then if you do it a second time, we have to kick you out. He's like, that's the best we can do legally. And I was like, okay, that sounds good. So I can get 2 really good runs in maybe. And so, yeah, we went up to the, you get like a number of practice runs ahead of time, right? So the first couple practice runs, I put it in the chill mode. You familiar with the chill mode?
Yeah. And how's chill in the Plaid?
It's still kind of fast. It goes to, I guess maxes out at 90 miles per hour and, or something. I did use the app to try to limit the speed to 90 miles, as high as it could go. And I was trying to make it go to like 120 max, but I guess they make it 90 miles an hour as the max on the app, but it also puts you in a chill mode. So yeah, it's like a regular car in the chill mode. I think I did the quarter mile in 15 seconons or something with the chill mode, which isn't terrible. That's
right.
Okay.
Everybody's kind of laughing at you in the stands. They have no idea.
Yeah, they didn't know I'm just like practicing it, because the first time down you have to like pull off a certain way and like come back and I just wanted to know what I was doing the first couple runs, and then the third practice run I was like, okay, I'm going to put it in the sport mode or whatever, not the Plaid mode yet though. There's a Plaid mode and then there's a drag strip mode. Okay. So the third practice run, I said I'm going to put it in the Plaid mode, but not the drag strip mode, and so I went down the light turned green, the tree goes down, you slam on the pedal, and I realized it'd be close to 10 seconds with that. So I, once I got up to like 120 or 130 miles an hour, I was like, I let go of the accelerator and the regenerative brakes kick in, and the announcer is watching it. They're like, oh, he tapped on the brakes even to get over 10 seconds. So it was funny. There's some audio clips of the announcers and such on my Twitter feed that I retweeted and stuff. It's pretty funny.
So then when you're okay, now tell me about the real runs and before the warning and then the you got to go home now, Emmett. You've gone too fast.
Yeah. So the first real run was the last practice run of the night before the competition run started. So I was going against a pretty competitive car. You have to put like your time on your window of what you expect you're going to hit, and I put 10.01. Because if you put under 10 seconds, they wouldn't let me go in there, right? So, and the other guy had 10.95 as his expected, like the best time he could possibly do. And anything under like 12 seconds, like really good. Like our friend brought his like Porsche 911 Carrera, which is tuned, and he was doing like between 11 and 12, and that's pretty fast.
Yeah, my Model 3 Performance, I went once and had a great time. I'd never done it before either. Went once and the P3D runs 11.8, just like clockwork. So
that's fast. And that's fast. Yeah. So like a nice Porsche will go between 11 and 12, or, if it's souped up even, So the guy next to me, he had like turbos in his car, and, his car was gutted. It was like a professional drag racer, there's like that's his hobby or his passion. Right. And so he's like an old Corvette or something like that. And so because he's 10.95 and I'm 10.01, he's got like a full second head start basically when the Christmas tree lights up,
Yeah.
So we're next to each other. and and I have to like set my my foot on the pedal, the with the plaid mode,
The launch mode, yeah.
Yeah, to have it light up at the right time to try to time it with the Christmas tree too. So it's a little more tricky to get that timing right, but I think I got the hang of it. So his light goes off. He zooms out real fast. It's got like and then a second later I go and I slam on the pedal and it just goes. And I'm like, he gets to an early lead because he had 1 second, and
Sure.
I catch up to him by the end and barely pass him. And he actually beat his record too. He got like 10.85 and I got 9.71. Nice. And so I barely beat him at the finish line. But because he got lower than his, he would have been like DK'd out too. But because I went below mine, 10.01, mine was worse. So he got to stay. That was actually the first competition run, now that I think about it. And I got kicked out, but the managers there were like, yeah, you can do one time trial too. So then the next run was the next real run. I got to do a time trial. They kind of let you mix that in with the competition.
So that's when you can just let it go.
That's when I let it go on that one too. Yeah. And on that one, I happened to be racing against a couple of my other friends who showed up in their Volvo, and that clip sort of went most viral.
I saw that.
They took a video, and I went head to head with them, and I let them get like a 4 or 5 second head start because I really wanted to time the drag strip, the drag strip mode. Like you put both pedals down and you wait for the light to light up in the front.
The front end lowers down right into the cheetah stance.
Like a cheetah stance. Yeah. And so they got like a 4 second head start. And then I just let go of the brake, and you have both pedals pressed down at the same time, and then you let go of the brake and it just zips,
Yeah.
So I let go of the brake and it just zipped off, and I caught up to them pretty quick and just zoomed by them. And that was a 10.01, I think. So it wasn't as fast as the time before that. Yeah. Yeah. So that was awesome. But the fastest time was the time before that, the 9.71. But yeah, these are the wheels that it came with, the Arachnid wheels, 21 inch. I hear there's some other wheels that might be a little faster.
Yeah, I guess the set that they'll have to actually enable the full 200 mile an hour top speed will be a package for later. But
and I got up to, but the trap speed at the end of both those was like 149 and 147 miles per hour. Yeah.
That's fun. Cool. That's got to be fun, right? I mean, just going that fast in a controlled, relatively safe environment.
Yes, it was much more fun doing that than trying to test it out on the highway or back road. On the highway or back road entrance ramp to a highway, I go to like 60 or 70. I don't want to go any faster. And on this, I got to zip it up to 160 miles an hour by the time I put my brakes on. But at the end of the quarter mile, they trapped it at 149.
Now the car can do like 9.2. You going to go back again and just try and and just try and get get that number down as far as you can before they throw you out?
I would like to. Yeah, I would like to try it again. And they said you can come back again. Yeah, they said I can come back another Wednesday night and the same thing. They were really nice about it. They just have to follow their regulations and laws, for their insurance purposes. But they said I can come back another Wednesday night. Same thing. I can practice it, and I can get 2 tries probably under 10 seconds. And one guy even let me borrow his jacket because if you get under 10 and a half seconds, then you have to wear like a jacket or something like that.
Fire safety.
Yeah. So I didn't have one. So we found a guy that let me borrow it. There's a group of people that bring their Teslas up there and people that don't drive Teslas that really like them too. So the people up there were super nice.
I'm glad to hear it. Now, the big question that's got the entire community, where I'm going with this. Now that you've had the car for a week, see, everybody's got an opinion on the steering yoke. I mean, I do. And my opinion is it definitely seems weird, but I'm open-minded to it. I am not going to pass judgment until not only could I try it, but live with it. Now, that's one of the reasons I was really happy that you were gracious enough to accept this invitation to come on the podcast, because you are one of the few people that has had a chance to live with it. You told me before we started recording that you're a little over 400 miles on the car. You've had the car for a week, so you've driven it. You've taken it to the drag strip. You've driven it around town. You've lived with it now for a week. How do you feel about the steering yoke?
Oh man, it's kind of in the very beginning, the first night, it was strange. It made me extra nervous driving this powerful car, and the blinkers there's buttons on the blinkers. But after a few days, I got used to the blinkers, and the yoke became really it just became part of my body or my arms. It was so much more. Yeah. Like you start developing new ways to turn the wheel. It's even more efficient than the big steering wheel, so my wife has a Model X and I had to run an errand for, in her car the other day, and I put my hands on the big steering wheel. I was like, this thing's like antiquated to me now. Like, I don't want to use this thing. It's like going from an electric car back to a gas car or something. Right. It's like, once you get used to the yoke, like, you don't want to go back. Like, I love it. Like, I can rest my elbows the entire time and like manipulate that little rectangular thing any way I want. And especially with the autopilot capability Tesla has, it's just much more comfortable with that the flat bottom to easily rest your hand if you're like on the highway, versus the steering wheel. It's not as uncomfortable to rest your hand on the bottom part of the steering wheel to keep the autopilot engaged, for example. But you just naturally develop new maneuvers with your hands to manipulate that kind of rectangular yoke when you're steering. It just becomes more efficient for sure for me. But it was probably day 3 or day 4 where I felt like I like it. And by day 7, which is like the last couple of days, I'm like, I love it. It's way better. I'm so glad to hear that. I mean, I was reading Motor Trend's coverage this week, and they did a separate piece about the yoke. They also took it to the drag strip, and they ultimately came to the conclusion they thought the yoke was a gimmick. They were not a big fans of it. They said it's pretty awkward in parking close shopping center kind of situations. But at the same point, and I don't discount their opinion. Obviously, they're professionals. They've been driving cars for decades. But I feel like they probably had a day or two at most with the car. That's why I wanted to hear from you. You're kind of, is it, can you kind of equate it to anything? Like maybe the closest analog I can come up with in my head is when everybody, not everybody, a number of people kind of freaked out about the Model 3 when it was unveiled, not having an instrument cluster, not having a display in front of the driver, just having that center screen. And then in my experience, I've had my Model 3 for 3 years. I think in a day, I felt it was like my eyes just go to the right slightly instead of down slightly below. And I don't really see anybody complain about the lack of an instrument cluster in the 3 anymore. Is that a reasonable comparison, do you think? Very reasonable. Or like the Model 3 door handles, people are like, oh, that's weird. But once you get used to it, it's second nature. You just stick your thumb, it pulls right out. Or like the Model X, the doors, when those first came out, half the people were like, that's weird. I don't want that. But they turn out to be so functional, like especially if you have kids and if you're parked in tight spots, they work seamlessly. I mean, I think Tesla's and Elon's just not afraid to innovate in ways that everyone else would be afraid to innovate. And they're better off for it because, people initially don't like change, but if you try it out for a few days, your mind sleeps at night and you get used to your muscle memory or, the neuromuscular, whatever it is. Every day I wake up and I'm more used to it and I can manipulate it. And I just feel second nature. It's way better than the steering wheel now. I'm really, really happy to hear that. I mean, I would imagine if I try to look into Elon's brain as best I can, I imagine the choice was made, A, because Elon would definitely say, it's cool. I think he definitely did it in part because it's cool, and he probably loved Knight Rider like we all did when we were kids. But 2, he has said, yes, you can see that new instrument cluster better in the new Model S, so you've got a little better visibility there. But then 3, I would also, and I feel like he hasn't talked about this, but I feel like this is almost an automatic byproduct. Is you've driven the car around and at high speed at the drag strip. It also serves to keep your hands at 9 and 3 in a car that has 1,000 horsepower. Yes, if you're driving fast, you keep your hands at the safest point versus another big steering wheel. Who knows where your hands are going to be if you're driving fast? Yeah. So, all right, before I let you go, I want to hear about your thoughts on the new seats as well as the new UI. So let's start with the seats because you've had, sounds like all the Teslas in your household. Yes. So how do you feel about this new revision of the Model S seats? Yeah, the seats are one of the 2 biggest unexpected surprises for me. Yeah, the seats, the cooling, it's really hot in the Bay Area right now. Maybe, it gets like yesterday I got up to 100 degrees where I live in the North Bay. And the cooling aspect of these seats, it's like a spa. Like you sit down, it's like a cooling blanket and it's just like cooled off immediately. Like gone are the days where I have to worry about sitting in a hot car, it feels good in the heat. And they're so comfortable too, these seats. I mean, they're always the the Tesla seats have been pretty comfortable for a while now, a few generations now, I'd say. But these are a little bit more comfortable than any seat I've sat in before of the Teslas. But the cooling aspect and the heat is amazing. I haven't tested out the heating aspect. I'm sure that's great too, but it hasn't been cold to try it out yet. And then the other big unexpected surprise is how quiet it is. Like my friend and I, when we got to the car and closed all the doors, like at the event, it was so loud. You remember, like there's music blasting. It was just loud. You have to like yell. It's almost like a club atmosphere, you know?
Right.
So we got in the car and we closed the doors. That's the first thing we noticed. We looked at each other and we were like, wow, this is like quiet. It's like one of those commercials you hear about, like, you know, when you see the commercials of the people in like a loud jungle, whatever it is, and like they close the door in silence, you know, it's just a commercial. Never in real life is never that drastic. But this time it was like that in real life. I was like, wow, this is like serious quietness, like compared to outside. So I was really impressed with the noise cancellation too.
Love hearing that. And then how about the UI as we wind down?
Oh, yes. The UI, the user interface, very responsive. I guess they have the new chips in there that make it faster. I'm excited to try Cyberpunk or other games on there. I saw them playing it at the event. It's not available. Some of those games aren't available yet. I assume they will be. But the actual responsiveness of the UI is just like instant gratification no matter what you touch. You know, old Model S or X or the Model 3 or Y, like there's a browser. You press the browser, it takes 10 seconds to load up, or 2 seconds, 5 seconds. It's not instant. Yeah. And sometimes it doesn't load up. It gets stuck, you know? And this one, it just loads up like, you know, shows the loading window, and it might load up in like, but the loading window, it's pretty clear, like it's working and it loads up within a second or two. But everything else, even like going to rear, you know, with the backup camera, instead of taking 1 or 2 seconds to pull up, it's instant. Everything's instant, like instant gratification, no matter what you touch on that UI. So the sound quality is so impressive too. Yeah, I mean, I'm very, very impressed. It's really, I had very high expectations, and they've met my expectations for sure.
And I guess the last big thing on the car that's also been a point of discussion in the community over the past week, well, and really before that, is the smart shift. So how have you found like getting used to that, just getting in, putting your foot on the brake to turn the car on, and then going, and you know, is it frustrating? Is it useful? Like, is it kind of a much ado about nothing? How do you feel about the smart shift thus far?
I would say it's in between. So far, the verdict is still out for me. Right now, It's in between useful and much ado about nothing. I mean, you just swipe up and down with your finger on the screen, you know, like instead of a stalk, and it's very easy to do that. But if I step on the brake, it knows I want to back out or knows I want to go forward, and that's great. But when you back out of a parking, like my driveway, then I got to switch it to, you know, go forward again, and I still have to use the screen to go forward. It'd be cool if it went an extra step further and it knew, like, after I backed a step on the brake, that it automatically switched to go forward. That'd be cool, you know. But it doesn't do that to my knowledge yet. But I'm still learning it and adjusting to it. So
it sounds like at worst, it's a swipe gesture replacement for grabbing a stalk.
Yeah, at worst, it's still the same thing. It's not an improvement or a drawback in any way, shape, or form. Yeah. It's just you know, you just don't have stalks. You just swipe on the screen right there to go forward or backward. Yeah.
Well, you're saying it's exceeded your high expectations. Are there you know, just being realistic, are there any regrets, or maybe not regrets, but like things you wanted to see or were hoping to see in the car that aren't there?
No, I mean, I think it's everything I envisioned. I really want this full self-driving to come to fruition. So I was hoping that all of the Plaids would automatically like be ready for that, but that's still a few weeks or a month away perhaps. But I'm excited for the full self-driving to just really use that and try it out.
Well, Emmett Peppers, congratulations on your new Model S Plaid. Drive it safely, drive it in good health. And thanks so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Happy to do it.
Well, I had a lot of fun talking to Emmett about the Plaid Model S because it's such a unique beast. It's the first proper interior redesign ever in the S, and obviously the performance is next level. So really appreciate him taking the time. I hope everybody enjoyed that interview. And hopefully I didn't miss any obvious questions there, but he was very generous with his time. Now, as for what's going on with my car, not much. It's getting dusty. It's getting dirty. I don't quite have time for a wash right now. We just came off of E3, the virtual edition, though it may have been. It's the video game industry's big annual trade show, big annual conference, and I had to do a lot of looking into the camera from my home office and hosting live things, which is great, don't get me wrong. I have a blast doing it, and E3, so it's always fun to see what big new games get shown off and what have you, but yeah, I'll have to give my car some cleaning attention here sooner rather than later. But anyway, an entertainment recommendation. I don't think I've given one of these recently. There's a new show just popped up on Netflix. I started giving it a try and instantly fell in love with it. It's called Fresh, Fried, and Crispy. It is a travel food show hosted by a guy named Dame Drops, and he is just endless enthusiasm and positivity, and he's just like, he's funny. He just loves what he's doing. And man, it is, and he goes to just different towns, different cities, trying all of their unique, fresh, fried foods. So that's like sort of what it zeroes in on. The first episode is St. Louis, which I've never had the pleasure of going to St. Louis so far in my life. And apparently toasted ravioli is a thing there, and that sounds amazing. So if I ever get to go to St. Louis, that's definitely something I'm going to look up. But anyway, Fresh, Fried, and Crispy, if you need a new show that's you can watch before bed. There's no drama. It's just fun. Check that out. All right, pro tip of the week time. AJ from Vancouver, British Columbia has this one. Go ahead, AJ.
How's it going? This is AJ calling from near Vancouver, BC again. I've got a little tip for your audience, and I'm sorry if you guys already know about this one. And the tip is to take advantage of the driver's profiles. For example, I like to drive around in chill mode all the time, but every now and then when I see someone pull up next to me on a traffic stop, and you can just tell that they're going to race you, I have a setting called Bring It On. Under that, I have my acceleration set to maximum, driver's seat upright, and my steering wheel setting set to sport. And yeah, with just one click, I'm ready to go. I don't have to dig through a bunch of menus. And the second one I have is called Winter. Under that setting, I have my regen set to low and my autofold mirrors turned off. The third one is called Road Trip. Under that setting, I have my driver's seat set a little bit further back, which is more comfortable for longer drives. Hope you guys find it useful, and talk to you later, Ryan. Bye-bye. Take care.
AJ, hello. These are all great. Thank you so much for sharing. I know at some point someone else called in with a nap profile, if I remember correctly, for having the seat recline all the way back at supercharger stops where you want to get a quick 15-minute power nap in there. So I'll add that to yours. Thank you so much. And again, I invite anybody out there that has a pro tip of the week, something interesting about the car that's not obvious, that's not in the owner's manual maybe, that just a little shortcut, little tip that would be useful to your fellow owners and enthusiasts. Give me a call. Call in with it, and I might feature you on an upcoming episode. And you can call in with that the same way that you call in on the regular Ride the Lightning hotline, which I gave you the call-in instructions for earlier in the podcast. All right, let me just mention a few friends of the podcast as well as the Patreon backers here before I go. First up, the Snap Plate. Don't forget about the Snap Plate for the 3, for the Y, for the X, and now the Model S as well. You can get yours at everyamp.com/RTL. And a reminder there, it is the front license plate bracket that snaps on and off in seconds. It will snap on securely, by the way. It's not flimsy or anything. It can't just be removed by anyone. You do need a tool that comes with it. But it's paint safe, it's grill safe, it's radiator safe, it's autopilot safe. It's a nice, clean, minimal design. And best of all, it's not an automotive adhesive tape that sticks to the front of your bumper, which is how the default one that Tesla gives you works on certainly on the 3 and the Y. I'm not sure about the one for the X, and then the S actually comes with it on there, and you have to go remove it yourself. But I don't think that one's taped on. But the point is, everyamp.com/RTL, just a cleaner way to go for a front license plate if indeed you want or by law need to get one of those. Meanwhile, AbstractOcean.com, the Costco of Tesla accessories. So I'm on the site now. I've clicked on Model Y here. Let me just see. They've always got something interesting. They've got a cool carbon fiber dash wrap for the 3 and the Y. If you want to change that, if you have the white interior with just the white ceramic piece, you can put a nice carbon fiber wrap over that. Really plus that up a little bit. So that's in there. They've got, of course, the footwell lighting kits, the brighter LED lighting kits. They're still selling. They've got the puddle lights, which, when you open the door, the light that shines down onto the ground to give you a little bit of light as you're getting in or out of the car at night. You can easily swap that out. Minimal tools required. Anybody can do it. And they've got, the one I'm looking at right now is the SpaceX logo. Just the X, the swooping X, which is super cool. So you can grab that. It comes in a pair for both of your front doors or both of your back doors, I guess, if you wanted to go that way. Just all kinds of stuff. There's a noise reduction kit for the Model Y as well, which could be of use to you. All kinds of things, the center console wrap kit, etc., etc. I'm not going to go through all of it. But anyway, abstractocean.com. And the point here, besides going to the website itself, is to use the coupon code RTL Podcast to get 15% off of your first order. Again, that's RTL Podcast, all one word. So RTLPODCAST. Don't miss out there. Immaculate Reflections. Their website's irdetailing.com. You're going to want to get in touch with Jeff sooner rather than later if you are looking for some either paint correction, some ceramic coating, some paint protection film. Maybe you are one of the lucky new first batch of Model S Plaid owners. Well, that is a beautiful vehicle. You're going to want to protect the paint, maybe clean it up if catch any little swirls or anything that might still be in there coming out of the factory. irdetailing.com if you are in the San Francisco Bay Area or going to be in the San Francisco Bay Area. I cannot recommend Jeff enough. I've said this before. I mean, my car is a rolling advertisement for the benefits of paint protection film. It has saved me several times from having to either have paint damage or have to have paint damage repaired with non-OEM, non-original. I'd have had to have probably half the car repainted at this point because, you got to blend if you do paint, all that stuff. I'm a big fan of paint protection film, but you can also, if you just want a nice ceramic coating on there so you don't have to wax it, you can do that as well. Mention to Jeff when you are contacting him at irdetailing.com that you're a Ride the Lightning listener and there is a nice little discount waiting for you. How about puretesla.com/RTL, your one-stop shop for your dash cam and Sentry mode needs? 128 gigabyte kit is just $49, free shipping anywhere in the United States, reasonable shipping anywhere in the world. Comes pre-formatted, ready to go. You just take it straight out of the package, plug it right into your car. Boom, you're done. You now have a dash cam. You now have a Sentry mode. You've got a little extra built-in security to your car, and it is micro SD based, so it's going to last and last and last. I'm not just a spokesperson. I'm also a client. I can personally vouch for puretesla.com/RTL. And then Jada, their lineup grows. They now have the USB hub console, which is kind of all in one. It's the storage organizer, USB hub, Apple Watch charger, and AirPod charger. They've got everything. Their other new product, the Jada tray, which I have to say thank you to Jada. They just sent me a Jada tray. So I put that in. It's no tools. It just goes, it nests into your center console and ends up kind of bisecting it horizontally. So you've still got room at the bottom underneath for stuff, and there's a pass-through. And then there's still room on top, but it just plugs into one of the USB ports, and then you can, it's got an Apple Watch charger, which I tested out as cool. And then you can also put your Pixel Buds on there in the case to wirelessly charge those, or your Apple AirPods. Pretty cool. I think it's a pretty good product. Nice, clean, just well put together product. But again, first and foremost, I am a number one fan of their wireless charging pad. So if you've got anything up to the 2021s, I guess. If you've got a Model 3 that does not have a built-in wireless cell phone charger, you really want to get the Jada wireless charging pad. You just buy it once, it drops right in. Again, no tools, and then you can wirelessly charge your phones forever. You buy it once for the life of the car. And I've got a coupon code for that, RTL. Simple as that, RTL, and you put that code in via my referral link if you wouldn't mind. So this is how you get to the site. It's getjada.com/ref/8. That is my referral link if you would be so kind as to use that. And then if you do me that favor, I'll do you that favor of the RTL coupon code that'll get you a nice discount. So check out their whole line of products there. And finally, the Patreon, which you can find at patreon.com/Tesla podcast. That's Patreon. That is the primary way through which you can support my efforts on this podcast. As I hope, like last week makes evident, hopefully this week with the interview, I do put a lot of time and thought and energy and enthusiasm and research and hopefully professionalism. That's my goal too. A lot goes into this podcast. And the way that it is supported by you guys is through Patreon. It is, of course, optional. It's always going to be a free podcast. But if you have it in your heart to support me on Patreon, it would mean a lot. So you can learn more at that link, patreon.com/Tesla podcast. The support tiers start at just $5 a month. And even that will get you early access to the episode each week. Because again, I record late Friday night, so you get it when you wake up on Saturday. You get it a day early. The support tiers and the bonuses all stack and go up from there. There are also annual options. If you just want to pay once and go, you know what, Ryan, I just want to throw you some support and be good for the year and not have a monthly payment, you can do that too. And in exchange, you'll get a 5% discount versus doing the monthly support there. So would appreciate it if you would check that out. That will about do it. Most of you listen via podcast format, any of the major podcast services you can find me. So Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, those last two being directly in your Tesla. You can natively access this podcast through your Tesla. I'm also on YouTube, just in audio-only form. There's no video, but if you just like to listen to stuff, you have YouTube open all day, you can find me on there. Just search on YouTube, Ride the Lightning Tesla, and you'll find my channel there. You can subscribe to it nice and easy. And with that, let me say a hello and a thank you to all of the wonderful upper-tier supporters of the Patreon, starting with the Roadster in Space tier. I want to thank the newest Roadster in Space backer, Jackson Wallace, who upgraded from Maximum Plaid. Jackson, you are incredibly kind and generous. Thank you so much for that. Along with saying thank you to the rest of the Roadster in Space crew, Pete White, Lyle Austin, Steve Radspinner, my friend on Twitter at Rodam, Fernando Cordero, Lawton from Chicago, Sean Neidig, Scooter Ward, and Neil Weaver. Meanwhile, the Maximum Plaid crew, the newest one there, Alex Brem. Alex, thank you so much. We exchanged notes this week. You are very kind. I appreciate your support. Along with that of the rest of the Maximum Plaid crew, Jonathan Wales, Cameron Clark, Daniel Grummer, Seth Capello, Nick and Tony, Tesla Hitchhiker 42, John Schmidt, Stan Roth, Howard Anthony Smith, Charles Galpin, Ryan from Las Vegas, Darren Nickel, Kaz Barnes, Ulrich Lassa, Brett Libano, Patrick Wisniewski, Gil Cabrera, Hay Watley, Eric Brown, Mark Eversole, Todd Badger, Joe Edgel, Kevin Yank, the Tesla Owners Club of San Joaquin Valley, Michael Williams, MT, Will Stedman, Tyler Smith, Mait Suaru, Derek Nesselrote, Justin Perez, Jeremy Harris, as mentioned previously in the show, Chris Beach, and Tom Mills. And then finally, the Plaid crew. Thank you so much to George Cassiopo, David Brander, Alexi Heft, Logan Willis, Robert Miracle, Jason Chalukas, Tim Hyde, Peter Chalet, Eric Randolph, David Nondahl, Jerry and Mary Smith, Joel Sapp, Dory and Steve Guberman, Jeremy, the Tesla Owners Club of Taiwan, Ron Lee, John Cody, Charlie Gillespie, David Perella, Sunil Joseph, Dennis Peak, Stig Mickey Jensen, Jeff Angwin, Chase Cabanillas, the Lydia family, Michael Regal, Aaron Altschul, Jared Brown, Jerome Strack, Jamie Dalton, Noel and Lucy Murphy, the Tesla Owners Club of the East Bay here in the San Francisco area, Paul Casarino, Ryan Natchett, Mike and Barbara from Louisville, David J. Howes, Travis Krenzel, Matt Nixon, the Tesla Owners Club of Wisconsin, Jonathan Zalesny, Joshua Walker, and Rick Dean. Thanks to all of you for your very kind and generous Patreon support. And with that, I once again say farewell and, more importantly, happy electric motoring for a sleeping, very snoring Daisy the Boxer. I'm Ryan McCaffrey. This was Ride the Lightning episode 307. I will be back, of course, same time, same place, next week.
I mean, I think a Tesla is the most fun thing you could possibly buy ever. That's what it's meant to be. Our goal is to make it's not exactly a car. It's actually a thing to maximize enjoyment. It's maximum fun.
Hi, Ryan. This is Aaron and Sean from Baltimore, Maryland. First-time callers, long-time listeners. We are proud owners of a Model 3. We love it. We want to give a shout-out to all the dads for Father's Day, especially our dad, Michael. We love you so much, Dad. Thank you for all you do and your hard work. Love the podcast. Hope Daisy's doing well. Bye.